Anyway, all righty. Should we talk about the Smackdown this past week?
I mean, we can.
Yeah, I guess that's a full-throated endorsement.
How are you feeling SmackDown coming out of SummerSlam?
Well, it seems like there's more violence in the titles than there are in the program. SummerSlam, SmackDown. You watch TV and it's a lot of walking to the ring and having conversation with other people. Am I lying?
No, that's SmackDown.
You would think if somebody's going to get smacked and somebody's going to go down, there'd be more violence on this program. But this was SmackDown for August 11th. As we know, that was just merely like not even 3 full days ago that we are sitting here now. And the opening match was Charlotte versus Asuka. I believe this was for one of the women's titles in the company. Was it or what? No, it wasn't.
No, she lost it to Bianca.
Yeah, that's right.
And then Bianca lost it to Io.
And then Bianca lost it to Io. And then Chase the Cat that ate the rat that lived in the house that Vince built. So no wonder we can't keep track of who. They've had 3 champions in the last week. But anyway, they went 2 minutes to even the first match with 2 main eventers, 2 minutes to the break. But finally, the upshot of the whole thing was that Charlotte made a big comeback. She was about to get the figure 8. And then here comes Bayley and Io and what's her name? Montana? Idaho?
I didn't see Dakota Kai.
Dakota.
Montana.
I thought Bayley, I wrote Bayley and her group came out. I thought she was in that group.
I think she's still hurt, so even though she celebrated at SummerSlam, I don't think she was here.
Well, Bayley and Io at least were there. And they came to ringside and basically attacked both Charlotte and Asuka and got a DQ and got some heat on them and left. And that was about what happened. Give or take a lie or two.
No, the commercial kind of screwed up the flow of everything. I wanted to see this a little bit, and early in the show on SmackDown.
Well, they had, what they're doing is, the matches are the least important part of this television program. They want the people to see the entrances because that makes people look like stars. They want people to hear these endless promos, not only because they think that that's what's going to primarily sell tickets, but also because the writers have to justify their job. And then they're going to show packages of all the big stuff that happens on other programs like SummerSlam. They had a tribal combat package here. And that's great. They just don't have any room for these pesky matches. So, and then after the tribal combat package, which was very, very good, I'd rather see that thing told in 3 minutes than 45, to be honest with you. But when they come back, one of the matches that's been announced and advertised, Escobar challenging Austin Theory for the U.S. He's got the U.S. title, right? Yeah. Well, Escobar gets jumped in the back by Theory and he slams a equipment case on his leg. So now Escobar is in question for the main event tonight. We'll get there. We'll talk about it later. Talk to me about Karrion Kross against AJ Styles. Have they just they give Kross these spooky pre-tape promos so Scarlett can growl at people and he can say some pre-written, grandiose dramatic material for about 45 seconds. But then every time he works, he gets the shit kicked out of him and it don't take too long. So what are we supposed to think here?
I'm not exactly sure because they always do something to make you think they're going to do something. Remember, there was a match where Karrion Kross came out of the crowd and choked out AJ. He was still yelling at him, "It's not over," during the Battle Royal at the pay-per-view. And then AJ just beats him right in the middle of the ring with his finish. I don't know what to think of it. And Scarlett is like right down the lane of what Vince McMahon would want to push as some sort of character on the show. They do nothing with her. I don't know what to think of all of it.
Scarlett is the closest thing that resembles Sable that they've had in 25 years. And that would obviously, we know about Vince's alley and what travels up or down it. This match, 2 minutes to the break. They came back. AJ hit a splash. Scarlett put cross his foot on the ropes. Mia Yim was with AJ, so the girls got in a fight at ringside. And Mia threw Scarlett over the fucking desk, just flung her, and AJ hit his finish 1, 2, 3. And that was another case of there you are.
Right, what are you supposed to think of that? Just AJ got a win. You can't really care too much more about Karrion and Scarlett. Like you said, she got thrown one way and he lost to the finisher.
He got beat. And,
middle of the ring.
You know, maybe he had to go out and park some cars afterwards to finish up his night. But I mean, now he looked like something, we've said this many times, bald, and when we were just getting glimpses. But if this is what he's got, the hair killed him. We're not really blown away by his matches. She does very little of anything. So I don't know what's going on. But the Brock and Cody package was tremendous. See, the packages on this program are without compare.
That's always been WWE's strong suit.
Yeah. And I mean, they can take a shit sandwich and they can make it look in a minute and a half or 2 minutes with some music and editing like you missed the goddamn greatest meal in the world. But then, speaking of the greatest meal in the world, in the back, Rey is mad. Rey Mysterio, he's mad about Theory for attacking Escobar and trying to fuck this whole thing up. More on that later. And then we came to Edge in the ring.
I couldn't wait to hear what you thought of this.
It's kind of like putting me in a Wendy's cheeseburger eating contest against stiff competition. You like what you're consuming, but by the time you get to the point where it's that fucking much of it, you're sick of it. Is that kind of what you thought?
I have not been a big fan of Edge's promos for the last year and a half or so. So when he came out here, I was like, okay, let's give this a moment. He started talking in the way he does, and I kind of got pulled out of it. But by the time, and I'll let you tell the story, it got to where it was going, then I was really like, what is this?
This went on and on for very little reason, because they could have said, well, they could have said all the things they said in this segment quicker, but they could have said what needed to be said a lot quicker. But Edge came out, his 25th anniversary is next week in Toronto with the WWE, but he came to Calgary because it's been too long since he's seen those people, but also he wanted to say that next week he wants a match against somebody that he's never faced before. And I'm thinking, ooh, this could be intriguing. And then Sheamus. And what? And
was your first thought, really? They've never faced each other before? I feel like I've seen this guy wrestle everyone 20 times.
Well, no, my first thought was, I don't care whether they've ever wrestled before. I don't think anybody ever wanted to see him ever wrestle before. And then there was a long explanation of how that old Sheamus is the guy who got him back in shape for his return after a 9-year retirement. And then they showed footage of the long explanation of a bicycle ride that they did for Sheamus's YouTube show that convinced him that he could wrestle again. And he worked out with him before his Rumble return in 2020. And I wrote at this point, because he was there about 5 minutes before the top of the 9 o'clock hour. I said, well, Edge has taken long enough. By the time that he introduced Sheamus and the Brawling Brutes, it was the 9 o'clock hour. And then they showed tape of the bike ride, and Edge wiped out. And then they showed a picture on the big screen of Sheamus sitting on Edge's daughter's bike. And then they traded scripted witticisms and or put over comments and or snide comments. And Sheamus went into the story of 2004 when WWE came to his town and he met Edge, and they owe each other so much that they want to fight. Of course, that makes perfect sense. Brian, put him up. I'd like to you've made me a ton of money. I'd like to kick the shit out of you. I wrote, Jesus, everybody can speak here, but this is the longest, most boring reason for a match ever. In quotes, we really like each other and have a great history together, so let's fight. That's what, and then finally, they agreed to the match. They shook hands, and Sheamus told Edge he hopes that he wasn't making a mistake. And that took well over 15 minutes. Did it not?
It took a long time. Edge was going a while before Sheamus even came out.
Well,
I don't know what else you want me to say. I mean, it was just bizarre.
I don't want them to say anything else, that's for sure.
It's just two baby faces, like, nicely agreeing to wrestle each other for no reason. Obviously, that match will go somewhere. Someone will do something. Maybe Edge needs to show him that he's not the soft bike riding guy that I don't know what the fuck this was.
I don't know.
The other brutes just stood there in the back like cheerleaders.
Yeah, why did they come out when it wasn't going to be? It's two baby faces, and they're talking to each other face to face straight up. The other guys, when they come out, then maybe they're going to switch Sheamus heel, which might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, and the other two brutes are wearing like soccer shirts, and he's out there dressed like he's going to clean the sewer in like the 1870s. I don't know what this is. And then they're going to have this match. They're smiling at each other. The only moment you get anything is that very last moment where Sheamus says, "Hope you didn't make a mistake." Until that moment, it's like they were hugging each other, smiling. They're loving each other this whole time. Bizarre.
God damn it. Teach you to do something nice for me. But then we had a SummerSlam Battle Royal package. And we know who the star of that match was. L.A. Knight, with everybody saying it. And then we got the treat of the week. L.A. Knight versus Flop Dollar. Apparently they trust L.A. Knight now with anything, because they haven't been letting Flop Dollar get in the ring. And of course they gave him his entrance in the break, Flop that is. But again, you can't let them go long. What is their goddamn group name now? I've forgotten.
Hit Row.
Hit Row, or Skid Row, or Death Row, or whoever the fucking. But nevertheless, real quickly, the heels take over with interference from the partners. Flop Dollar looked like he was wearing Mighty Igor's long underwear gimmick. Did you like that? And then L.A. Knight makes a comeback, hits the L.A. elbow, hits his finish, 1, 2, 3. And I was kind of disappointed that Flop didn't do enough to really screw the whole thing up, but it's fascinating watching him with those awkward body movements. And then L.A. Knight cut the promo and talked to us. Yeah. And the people loved it. So they're finally doing this, and, you know, where this will end up, I don't know who I would put L.A. Knight with to elevate him to the main event, you know, status that they obviously are hoping for on this roster, but it should be a heel because he's going to be more popular than anybody else, right? But he's just been back and forth messing with everybody. Very Austin-esque.
After everything he's been through booking-wise, they're giving him wins. And at times they just have him come out there, get the pop, say his thing, and leave without looking weak. That's a step in the right direction for the way they treat people there.
With everybody saying it, you know what else everybody was saying?
What's that?
At least Escobar was telling Adam Pearce he can wrestle tonight. Even though he got his legs slammed in a fucking equipment case, he can wrestle. So the main event's back on. Explain to me what's going on with Bobby Lashley and the Private Profits.
I can't, other than he's taken them under his wing. He's brought them to a tailor, gotten them some new suits. They attacked the babyface team previously, and now they're hanging out in a club, but there's no one else there.
So yeah, they are in a private club, meaning it's only for them. And they're sipping whatever beverage, and they're wearing nice suits. But basically, Bobby has given them a lesson in haberdashery and how to dress. Otherwise than that, they hadn't really, I don't know what the fuck's going on. The Hurt Business. What? Let's just do it again. So then, here comes Escobar for his big title match with Austin Theory. And he's not even in the ring yet. He's coming down the aisle, and Theory comes out and kneecaps him. And down he goes again, selling the leg. And Theory cuts the promo. I was going to defend, but he's too weak. He can't make it. And then as everybody, including Adam Pearce, is checking on Escobar, Escobar asks Adam Pearce to make the title match against Mysterio. And Ray hits the ring, and off we go into action. And off we go to the break in 30 fucking seconds. But, all right, now I'm flim-flammed and bamboozled. Because it looked like that they were going to make Escobar the new Hispanic babyface hero by putting that title on him after Rey Mysterio endorsed him and blessed him. And as we saw, then he won a match against Mysterio to get this. But in this match, again, 30 seconds, they went to the break, they come back, and Mysterio is still looking good and still cooking. And within 2 minutes, he hit the 619, 1, 2, 3, new champion, won the U.S. title. And Ray and Escobar and the LWO hug each other and celebrate. But what the... Was this a legitimate injury to Escobar and a cover reason? Why would you not only have Escobar go that far, but then have Mysterio not only endorse him, but put him over? And that match was fucked up because Mysterio got his bell rung before he could be pinned, but it was stopped and Escobar won it. And then do an angle where Escobar can't go for the title, and Ray fills in, and Ray wins it easily. He beat Theory quicker than goddamn John Cena was able to do so. And now Ray's the champion. Does that mean that Escobar is now going to stab him in the back over jealousy and become a heel? Or has Escobar been slotted as the best friend and Robin the Boy Wonder next to Mysterio? How does this work psychologically?
I'm not exactly sure. Again, I was surprised by the finish. Can't say I'm surprised by an angle or a match or anything, but taking the belt off Theory, putting it on Ray was a surprise, and maybe it leads into Escobar, who went from being in a lucha suit to being in the LWO like overnight, and respecting Ray when Ray was having the issues with Dominic. Maybe they realized that Escobar as a heel would be better than Escobar as a babyface. Maybe, who knows? Who knows what the reasoning is for this? I was surprised, though.
It looks like they started to do something and Vince changed his mind. Is one of those. I'm not saying it. I don't know it. But I don't know what's going on. Anyway, so then we got an in-ring promo with Roman and Paul and Solo. And have you noticed now, especially when he turns sideways, Paul looks like he's had what little hair he has left drawn on his head with a Sharpie.
Well, I think he dyes what hair he has left.
But black. He's dyeing most of the hair on the sides of his bulbous bison head.
Will you stop it?
I'm just saying it. He's got that profile of like a bison where he's got the hump on it. But he's dyeing it black, but then he's putting in like the greasy kid stuff or whatever, because instead of individual hairs, you see giant, thick black bands, like 4 or 5 of them. And it's hair stuck together, so it looks like it's drawn on with a Sharpie.
Maybe.
But anyway, so Roman says to Paul, where's Jimmy? And Paul says, I don't know, I haven't talked to him. And Roman's not happy about that. But suddenly, Jimmy appears at ringside and comes into the ring. And we will recall that Jimmy is the one who pulled his brother Jay out of the ring and cost him the win at SummerSlam, and et cetera, et cetera. And Roman tells Jimmy, don't worry about these fans. They don't matter. I owe you one. You name it. What do you want? You want money? You want a car? You want a boat, a yacht, a jet? I believe the money, the car, even the boat. The yacht, maybe, but a jet, I don't know if he's willing to go that far. But Jimmy didn't want anything. Because what he did, and this is the explanation we've all been waiting for, what he did had nothing to do with Roman Reigns. And Roman's like, well, that's ridiculous. I run this place. It's all about me. So you don't want the material thing. You want power? You want to be the new right-hand man? And right as he says that, Jay Uso's music plays, and Jay comes down. And now Jimmy and Jay are in the ring face to face. Face to face, they faced each other, stuck out their bellies and run at each other. That's an old Big Bad John interview. And then Jay demanded to know why, Jimmy, why? And Brian, this is where that Jimmy explained why that when Roman attacked Jimmy and sent him to the hospital, and Jay decided to get even for the hospitalization of his twin brother by coming and beating Roman and taking the tribal chiefness away from him so that he couldn't bully all the rest of the family anymore. Jimmy says that he screwed Jay out of that because he loves Jay. It wasn't jealousy. I was afraid to lose you. If you were the tribal chief, what happens to the Usos? Would power make you like him, like Roman Reigns, make you misuse people and mistreat people? I didn't want you to be an asshole like him. Brian, is it a good enough reason that your twin brother would stab you in the back and physically attack you because he was afraid that you weren't going to be his partner anymore, that you were going to progress to be a big star on your own? And even though he's fighting for redemption for you, for the guy that hospitalized you, he's thinking about himself and the tag team situation and would rather fuck you out of getting ahead so that you would stay with him? Is that a good reason?
Unfortunately, maybe the only good reason they have, but it's not a good reason. And if I'm Jey Uso, I'm saying, why didn't you call me on Sunday?
Yeah.
Why did I have to wait until today in front of everyone for you to say all this shit?
I know, it's like when Austin stomped a mud hole in people. I said the kicks looked like shit, but it didn't matter because he's over. These explanations in the Bloodline angle, if you just sit down and listen to them and overlook the performance and just listen to the root cause behind it, they're getting a little thin. But it's over, so the people don't care.
It's getting really thin. And again, it's the same people and Heyman each and every week on this thing. And I said coming out of SummerSlam, it feels like they may have jumped the shark. I heard from some other people who said the exact same thing and had the same thought at the same time. This didn't do anything to convince me otherwise yet.
Well, I did write that I don't think the fans in the arena are necessarily buying the reason either. There was kind of like listening, but not really. Anyway, Jimmy finally offers his face for Jay to kick in, if that'll make you happy, right? And Jay instead just turns his back on Jimmy. And so Jimmy hangs his head and leaves. And then Roman laughs at Jay and says, I told you so. You're stupid. You're a hothead. And he starts to tell Jay to acknowledge him. And that's when Jay super kicks Roman. And Solo jumps on Jay. And Roman's back up and has Superman punch to Jay. And then runs into Jay's super kick and spear. And so now the heels have been routed and they just, Roman and Solo roll out and completely disappear. And Jay tells Jimmy, come back, Shane, Jimmy Shane. And Jay jumps out on the floor and Jimmy turns around and Jimmy comes back to Jay with his arms stretched out for a hug. And Jay super kicks the shit out of him. And then walks out of the arena through the assembled audience. And scene. I don't know if they're still liking it. They're still liking it, but I'm starting to be confused now. Maybe this whole thing is just the family has had problems before we knew about their problems, and everybody's been waiting to just kick the fucking mush into the other guy.
Heyman was always good at having ideas. He was never good at having an ending for the ideas. We'll see what happens here.
He never had a fucking good go home spot, did he?
No.
It was always, it would go on and on and on until finally something else happened that made you forget about shit. And it would just kind of go somewhere else.
Tommy Dreamer pile drive Beulah nonstop. And then she announced she's pregnant with his baby. And then she announced that she was a lesbian and she's no longer pregnant. It was just nothing made any sense, but it worked because it was the 90s and it was ECW. We'll see if they have anywhere to go with this.
She could have come out with a turkey baster.
She could have. She could have.
See, that's a loophole.
Well, there's a loophole, but the only part I really liked was when Roman said, and he got fired up, "You're here to acknowledge me." That I liked. But the rest of this and the confusing explanation and why any of this is happening, it seems like they're running out of things to do until they get to wherever they're trying to go. Like they're running out of week-to-week ideas, but we'll see. But coming out of SummerSlam, they had to do something better, I think, for me, and this wasn't it.
Yeah, see, that's the thing is the big shows are longer in between, but when you only have a few people that move the ratings or move the numbers, you've got to feature them as much as you can. And sometimes every week, what else are they going to say that needs to be said that hadn't already been said or done or whatever the case? And yeah, sometimes, but it's when you're having the twins fuck each other back and forth. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
That's a movie.
You know
that's a movie I once saw out of Santa Monica.
The twins fucking each other back and forth?
These two girls, whatever. What were you going to say?
Oh, the Barbie twins. Remember them?
Yeah, they married, what's his name? From The Wanderers, Ken Wall.
Both of them?
I think one of them, but he was with both of them. It was kind of like, that was the deal.
Well, fuck that guy. But nevertheless.
He was fucking those girls.
Yeah, well, you know who needs a new job, a new line of work, needs to learn a trade, start a small business, something like that.
Who's that?
Jimmy Uso.
Oh.
I think he's gone and put himself in a bad place. He's figured out of the bloodline. He's not figured in with his brother anymore. Who knows what the fuck's going to happen? I think he needs to open a small business because then he could be affiliated with our friends at Box of Awesome, Brian. Because that's what the people at Box of Awesome do over at Bespoke Post. What they do is they curate carefully chosen merchandise, gear, and items from the best small brands and small businesses around the world and bring them to you on a mainstream platform. And it can be anything that you're interested in, any genre or subgenre. We've talked about, they've got everything from knives to cooking supplies to barbecue rub to mint julep cups to do-it-yourself pizza kits to hot sauces. I think they actually have parachutes. I don't know if they have them all the time, but they drop one in every now and then.
You know, I would usually shoot you down right about now, but Box of Awesome is so cool and they send you such cool stuff, they may have parachutes.
Yes, you never know. You only know what you tell them, and that is what you do when you go to boxofawesome.com and you just take a little quiz to find out what you're interested in, what your tastes are, what your likes and dislikes are, and then every month a brand new box of awesomeness comes directly to your front door. Camping gear essentials, cookout must-haves, drinking game upgrades, a variety of things that can be used as personal defense weapons. Those knives are wicked looking. But all these things are made by small businesses and folks just like you and me, well, maybe just like you, that have started up their businesses, and now our friends at Bespoke Post through boxofawesome.com are bringing this to the consumer. And again, it's free to sign up. You can skip a month or cancel anytime you want to. And each box is valued at about $70 worth of items, but you only pay a mere fraction of that price. And you never know what they might come up with. Stacy, still using the Weekender bag, that incredible canvas and leather travel bag that has the classic styling, and she uses it to carry her painting supplies around as she is a budding artiste. But you can multi-purpose a variety of these things. What you do right now, go to boxofawesome.com, take the quiz, help them pick the right boxes of awesomeness for you, and the new box comes once a month, and you open it up and put all this cool stuff in your house. And you can get 20% off your first monthly box when you sign up right now at boxofawesome.com and enter the code JCE at checkout. Boxofawesome.com. The code is JCE for 20% off your first box. Boxofawesome.com, code JCE. 20% off. Brian, I thought we heard from the other guy that those 20% deals were a thing of the past, but you got it right here with Box of Awesome.
Box of Awesome takes care of the listeners.
They certainly do. They take care of them. If you need a listener taken care of,
that's not what I mean.
Put away,
they do a good job. No, they make our listeners happy with their fine products, or the fine product that they curate and send to us.
That's right. They say, looky here at this fine product. And while their attention is diverted.
No, that's not what I mean.
You'll never see that son of a bitch again.
You will see him again. And if you don't, it has nothing to do with Box of Awesome.
They sometimes send out parts of these people in different boxes of awesome, depending on what your likes and dislikes are.
We were doing so well. We were so close to the end. There are no body parts in Box of Awesome. Only.
Did you see the news story of the guy and his son that picked up a hitchhiker?
Oh, no.
And picked up a hitchhiker. He was carrying a knapsack of some kind, and there was quite a smell coming from the fellow, and they dropped him off. This was, I believe it was in rural Georgia. They dropped him off, and then come to find out that one of the next towns over, this guy was wanted for murder. They were actively looking for him because he killed this guy and cut his head off, and apparently had the head in the knapsack. So don't pick up.
Isn't that a movie? I mean, is this a real news story? Or you're just talking about a movie you saw?
No, this is a real thing I saw on the TV news. It was 8 heads in the duffel bag.
Yeah.
But this was just one guy's head in a knapsack. But the guy with 8 heads in a duffel bag wasn't hitchhiking. But anyway.
Is there a difference between a knapsack and a book bag or a backpack?
Well, yeah, because if you got a knapsack, you're holding all your stuff you take naps in, your pajamas, your sleeping cap, your sippy cup.
Is it the same bag, though? Is it the same kind of thing?
No, it's a different. You got a sack for naps and a sack for backs.
So you're saying a knapsack is different than a backpack?
A knapsack is much different than a backpack. A backpack could have school supplies and all kinds of, or heads.
Forget about that. I'm not talking about what's in it in terms of the actual structure of the apparatus.
I would think, a backpack would be different still than a knapsack. A knapsack doesn't have to be just limited to just being a backpack. A knapsack could be carried on your back or around your neck or on a stick over your shoulder.
Well, so could a backpack.
A knapsack on my back. See, you could have it on your back, but it doesn't need to be. Well, I guess you could wear a backpack on your front and cover up your dick, and that way if somebody kicked you in the balls, you'd have padding.
I don't know why you went there, but beyond all of this, if you want to get something awesome, Box of Awesome from our friends at Bespoke Post.
That's right. And if it smells, don't open it up because it's got somebody's head in it.
No, it does not. There are no heads in any of the packages they send out. There will be nothing smelling bad.
Make sure when you take the quiz, do not say that you enjoy collecting disembodied heads.
Well, you could say
that's
that.
All you got to do.
You can say that in the quiz, but it doesn't mean that you're going to get a disembodied head sent to you.
Well, no, because if you say that in the quiz, they'll know you're not a collector, and they'll send the heads to somebody else. So make sure you say that. Boxofawesome.com, code JCE.
Box of Awesome.
Well, Brian, what in the wide, wide world of sports is going on at the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network this fine week?
Another fine week of programming on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. Get information about all the shows on Twitter at Superpodcast or on Facebook at facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. A few notes. Of course, the wrestling news. Each and every day, get your free daily wrestling newscast every morning. Find out all the news. None of the opinion. Find out what's really happening. News you can trust from the wrestling news. Get it at thewrestlingnews.com directly or wherever you find your favorite podcast. Look for Arcadian Vanguard's The Wrestling News, approaching 1 full year of 365 days of daily wrestling coverage. Check it out today. The Wrestling News. Also want to make mention of this week's episode of Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon at suawpod.com. Available wherever you find your favorite shows. This week's guest, Mike Edison, formerly of Wrestling's Main Event magazine, formerly of High Times magazine, the author of several interesting and fun books. Hear this today, a fun conversation. Once again, suawpod.com or Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon, wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
How in the world Did he not name that podcast The Wisdom of Solomon?
I don't know. That has not come up in any of our previous creative meetings over here at Last Man.
Apparently you're not very creative.
That's actually going to be his spin-off show, The Wisdom of Solomon.
We're saving it for last.
Once again, Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon, SUAWpod.com. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership! Hey, that's kind of puny. But there's no puny episodes in the canon of the Super Podcast. Go through the archive at 605pod.com. Available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. The Mothership.
Yeah, there's no puny episodes in the can. That's where I listened to all those episodes of The Mothership, is in the can.